Welcome to Paired Adventures. This podcast is intended for listeners 18 and older. It contains discussions about the consensual adult swinger lifestyle and may include mature themes and language. Listener discretion is advised.
All opinions shared are personal and for entertainment and discussion purposes only. This podcast does not provide professional, medical, legal, or relationship advice.
All activities discussed involve consenting adults. We do not support coercion, exploitation, or illegal behavior. By listening, you confirm that you are of legal age and choose to engage with this content. Hey there, sexy listeners, and welcome back to Paired Adventures. This is Veronica,
And Philip?
and today we're going to be kind of talking about one of the harder topics, I think. So, we received a question on our Instagram, which we do encourage you guys to send in questions if you have them. So, we're going to address one of the questions that we got. And the question was, can you be a good parent and a swinger? So, I think that society treats this like a trick question because somewhere along the way we decided that sexuality and morality are the same thing. There's this unspoken rule that once you have kids, your identity should shrink,
Okay.
that like your desires should quiet down and that your body should belong to everyone except for you.
Yeah.
And so I think that being a good parent isn't about being sexless. It's about being present, responsible, emotionally available, and safe. And none of those disappear because you have kids or because you're an adult that has consensual relationships.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to answer that question, can you be a good parent and a swinger at the same time? I would say, yeah, absolutely you can.
I think that you can balance both of those things.
Right. Because as a parent, you know what your priorities are, or at least for us, we're parents. And our children come before us going to any swinger events or anything like that.
Yeah, we can balance both of them.
Right. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's dive into this subject. As I guess you have a few different things that you have to make a decision on when you're a swinger and you have children. Now, obviously, each person's going to have children at different ages and age groups in their family. For us, we have older kids, we have adult age, and then we have younger children.
Yeah.
So for us, our older kids know about the swinging lifestyle. They know that we participate in it. But for our younger child, it's not appropriate at this time for that child to know.
Yeah. And I mean, let's talk about what actually makes a good parent.
Right.
So, being a good parent doesn't mean perfection. Being a good parent means showing up consistently,
Yep.
providing emotional and physical safety, teaching respect and boundaries, and having empathy,
Mm-hmm.
modeling what a healthy relationship looks like, and knowing that your kids come first. What's not on the list of being a good parent is who you sleep with, what your adult relationship structure looks like, or whether your relationship fits neatly into someone else's comfort zone.
That's all true. So, kind of going off of what you just said, the biggest thing is that, and I don't want to speak for all swingers because everyone has their own thing. So, how about
We have to speak for
we have to
ourselves.
speak for ourselves here? For us, our kids come first, right? And we're always there for them. We're at every event.
Hmm.
We show up for them. We're teaching them what a relationship should look like. Yes, our older kids know that we partake in an alternative, like an ethical, non monogamy relationship.
Hmm.
But our youngest has no clue
Yeah, she has no
because she
idea.
doesn't need to.
Yeah, I think it's about judging what is appropriate for you in your situation. What you tell your children is really up to you. You can be in the lifestyle and your children don't ever have to know about it.
Mhm.
or you can be open and honest about it. And so for us, our biggest thing is we've always been very open and honest with our children. So we teach like proper anatomy. We don't use pet names. Like, so we start with that just as a foundation for raising our children. Our children know what their bodies are, their parts of their bodies, and
Yeah,
it
I
goes
mean
from there. I mean, and then just being honest with them. So, like, when I discovered that I was bisexual, that was a conversation that we had with our children because it was more about being my true, authentic self. And also, in a way, I think that that allows our children to feel more comfortable coming to us
mhm.
and talking to us about things that they might need to talk about.
Yeah, and I think that, it's not like we just sat them down and said, "Hey, your mom's bisexual." Like, that would be a little awkward. I believe it came up as one of our children brought up that topic, and we just kinda said, "Hey, this is not abnormal. There are a lot
Yeah.
of there's different sexualities in the world, and you need to be aware of those, and that doesn't make you any less of a person.
Yeah.
Like, what you want from your partner is sometimes it's private. It really has nothing to do with what anyone else thinks."
Yeah. So I guess like the question is like really like how do you manage parenting and being in the lifestyle?
I think you just have to figure out what works best for you. We know people who their kids have no idea. We met someone and her daughter was like, what, in their 20s, and she's like, she could never know about this. She would, hate me or she would never talk to me again. I think that for each person, it's different. For us, when we had this conversation with our children, they were of an appropriate age. And what that appropriate age is, we are not here to tell you. So for someone that might be 15 if their children are mature enough to handle it, and for others it might be, a year or two younger than that. I can't give you an age. I think our children when they found out were around that 14 years old age. And they had questions.
Yeah, and they thought it was a little weird.
Oh, I think they still think it's weird. And that's fine because we're not here pushing the lifestyle on them. Like, this is our choice and what we choose to do with our relationship. Our children are older now and they're in committed relationships, monogamous relationships. And that's what they want. That's what they see for themselves. So I think it really just goes back to like your own, your family better than anyone else.
Yeah, and I think like why would this conversation be so loaded? And it's because I think sex is still treated like it's something dangerous. Especially when parents are involved. There's like that fear that knowing parents are sexual beings somehow harms children. But really, like, sex is just a part of life. Like, that's how children get here. And
Mhm.
at some point, you have to tell your kids that.
Right.
I mean, at some point, you have to have that conversation about the birds and the bees. I mean, it's not just like you kiss a boy and you get pregnant and have a baby.
Yeah, and if you're not the one telling them, they're learning it from the school, they're learning it from their friends, and they're learning a lot of misguided information, honestly. And that's why, like Veronica said, we've made it a sex safe topic in our house to where if you want to talk about these things, we're open to talk about it. We would rather our kids know the way to protect themselves and to protect others, and also about consent. We talk a lot about consent on our podcast, but even in real life, like consent is huge, and we want our children to be respected and everything else. So it's just really controlling more so what the conversation is when you can have that and they're not finding out from someone else.
Yes, we do things to help teach consent in our house by, like I said, teaching body anatomy and respect at home. Like we model healthy relationships at home in age appropriate ways, like Philip said, making sure that they're old enough to understand what you're telling them. Or we also allow them to have information that is relevant to what's going on with their lives. So, including things that we know into like questions that they're asking, but doing it in a way that they don't have to know all the details because kids learn even without all the details.
Hmm.
You don't have to give them the graphic, explicit version
Oh no.
of something. You can still teach them a valuable lesson
Right.
without giving them the whole ins and outs. And secrecy doesn't mean that you're being dishonest either. So, like, if you want to keep what you're doing as far as the lifestyle like a secret, you're not being dishonest with your kids. You're protecting them.
Right. You're doing what you feel is right for your family and your situation. So, the original question is, can you be a good parent and a swinger? Yes, you can. Because you separate those two things. Like, for us, we don't bring anyone into our house. We don't play with anyone. And we have a couple reasons for that. One is the safety of our children and ourselves. And two is like our marital bed, you might call it, is like ours. This is where we sleep at night. Like, we don't want to play with others in our bed. We'll get a hotel room. It distances us from, our family and keeps everyone safe. Like, do we have friends that come over and hang out? Absolutely. But if we were to do anything like lifestyle related or get risque,
Risque.
it would not happen at our house. And
Yeah, I mean, we just have like clear boundaries as far as like what happens in our home.
right. So we protect our children that way. And then, kind of like you were saying about proper anatomy for younger kids. I think this is important. And I really never even thought about it until you said something one day. But like, you don't want to name something a cookie.
Yeah, so we had this conversation when we had our youngest. And because we didn't do it with our older two, we just kind of let them call their private parts whatever they wanted to call it.
Mhm.
So, you know, our son would say like it was his pee pee or, Willie or something like that. And when we had our youngest, I was very adamant on her using anatomically correct terms. And so we taught her that boys have penis and girls have vaginas. And so she would refer to her private parts as her vagina. And at first, Philip was a little hesitant on that because he's like, that's just weird. Like, why would you want your child saying that their penis hurts? And I told him, I was like, well, because then you know exactly what they're talking about.
Right.
And everybody else knows exactly what they're talking about. I had read an article once about a little girl who was trying to tell her teacher, and she was young, that someone was touching her inappropriately. And she had told her teacher multiple times that so and so had touched her cookie. And the teacher, not knowing what this was just like, okay, well, you know, just tell them that that's your cookie, like that you don't want them to touch it, which is fine if we're referring to an actual
Right.
cookie.
Exactly.
But it turned out that that was actually the pet name that she referred to her vagina was a cookie. And not really sure why, but I mean, there's so many levels of wrong with that, but
Hmm.
moving on.
Exactly.
But needless to say, she was expressing a concern that had to do with inappropriate touching of her private areas, and nobody knew that that was happening. So, at the time when I had our youngest daughter, I knew I was going to have to send her to daycare. I was going to have to allow someone else at that time to be caring for her and things of that nature. And the last thing that you want, God forbid, is for something to happen to your child and for them not to be able to express it in a way that is understandable to anyone outside of your home.
Hmm.
So if you're the only one that knows that this thing is called a cookie
Yeah.
and or
Or a
whatever,
flower,
or
or I mean,
right,
whatever.
whatever
Yeah.
you decided to call it, that child might be asking for help and that person doesn't know that they need help.
Mhm.
Whereas if my child came up to you and said, hey, Bob down the street touched my vagina, I
That's
know
very clear.
exactly what has happened,
Right. Exactly.
and I know that it needs to be addressed.
Yeah. So I think it's just different ways that you separate and that you protect your children, and that's what makes you a good parent. Like, showing up for them, being at the school events. None of that has to do with our sex life.
Right, it doesn't none of that has to do with who you're sleeping with.
None of it. So, do we bring our children to swinger events? No. Like, that's not appropriate.
No, and do we talk to our 8-year-old about what we do on the weekends when mommy and daddy have a date night?
Yeah, we have a
No,
date night. That's all she knows. It's
that's all
fine.
she knows. And I mean, because the whole point of the matter is being a good parent and what you want your kids to learn from you is what actually matters long term. You want them to learn about love, honesty, respect, emotional safety,
Mhm.
all of those things, knowing when to evolve or when to learn that it's time to leave, whether that's in a relationship or a situation, because your legacy isn't the lifestyle, it's the love and the stability that you create in your home.
So I think it's a loaded question. It really is. And I hate that one of our listeners might feel, and now I'm just making assumptions, but might feel that they can't be a good parent or that swingers can't be good parents. I mean, the two are totally different topics here. Parenthood and what you choose to do as consenting adults. I mean, it's just completely separated.
Yeah, it's two different things. And you can be a good parent and you can also be an adult that consents into doing other things.
Right.
I mean, it's the same thing as saying, can you have a good marriage and being a swinger?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it works the same way. As long as you're focusing on what matters the most, which in this case would be your children, and you are showing up and you're being accountable and you're teaching your children lessons that they can use in their life and raising them to be good people, what you do with your alone time has nothing to do with being a good parent or a not a good parent.
Well said.
Yeah.
Do the best that we can. And of course, these are our opinions. And like I said before, if you're questioning this and you're wondering, like, when is the right age to tell your kids or what is appropriate, we can't answer that.
No.
Only you can.
I mean, you know your child better than anybody else. And it might not even be like a full like, "Oh, hey, we are, mom and dad sleep with other people." It may just be like, "Okay, you have learned XYZ from being in the lifestyle." And your daughter comes to you and she's having an issue with a boy and that boy wants, to do something that she's not comfortable with. That's where you can take the information and the knowledge that you have about consent and use that to teach her how to have a healthy relationship and consent. And, and then allowing your children to have the ability to use their minds to think outside of the box and allow them to know that life isn't perfect, right? Life is messy and it sometimes it doesn't fit in the box that everybody wants you to shove your life into. So it's okay to want other things. It's okay to be in a relationship and maybe want more. And so just being honest about that. And if you have the ability to, sit in front of your child who's struggling with that situation and saying, or like even like in my situation, like sitting with my child and my child comes to me and is like, Mom, I think I'm bisexual, but I'm in this relationship with a guy and I don't know what to do. Like at that time, like I can sit there and honestly and openly say to her like, "Okay, this is this is hard. I understand that. But, hey, your mom is bisexual and I was where you were at one point."
Hmm. Right, exactly. And again, these are conversations that you have to judge at what level is that appropriate. And our oldest is an adult. And I know we sound young and joyful, and that's because we had we had children
Yeah,
extremely young.
she's in her early 20s.
Right. And we had her at a young age. So we are young parents, and we got to grow up with our kids. So that's a little different too, I think. It's just whatever your family structure is and dynamic. Like we were young parents, they were raising us as much as we were raising them,
Yeah,
honestly.
that is true. We were growing right alongside
We
them.
were. So, for each person, it's going to be different. But ultimately, at the end of the day, can you be a good parent and be a swinger? Yes, you can. Like, it's just what you make out of it and how you handle the situations. Again, like, I'm not going to put a swinger event in front of my kid's graduation
Right, exactly.
or an important moment in their life.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like, okay, say you're talking with another couple and you're talking, say, like on Snapchat or on SLS, the swinger website, and you guys are chatting and you're making plans to meet up for the weekend, get some drinks, do whatever. And then your kid gets sick. It's okay to, say, hey, something came up. I can't meet up this weekend. Or if they know you have kids, like just say, hey, my kid's sick. I have to stay at home. And
Mhm.
they're going to be understanding of that, but your kid comes first. Like, you're not gonna leave your kid homesick with the flu because you wanna go out and fuck somebody. Like, it's that's bad parenting.
Right,
So,
exactly.
I mean, a good parent would say, "Hey, I can't come, and we'll meet up another weekend," because there's always another weekend.
Yeah, there's always another time. So it's just being there. It's showing them love and it's being a parent. And for each parent, that's slightly different. But I think everyone still has those kind of things that are ingrained in them of what they need to show their child. And that's love, compassion,
Empathy.
empathy, all of those things.
And I feel like you can be a swinger and still do all of those things,
Yep.
and it doesn't negate one or the other. We're still very much there for our children. And I feel like the relationship that we have with our children, especially our older children, with them knowing that we're in the lifestyle, I honestly, in my perspective, I feel like we're closer to our children in a sense because we don't necessarily hide a part of us, and both of our older children know that I'm bisexual. They know what we do, not in explicit detail, but they do know. And I think that for us, the important thing for us as a family is that what we want to show our children with our relationship and our life is that it's okay to be different. It's okay to take the time to explore. And I mean, things change as you grow. I mean, we are not the same people that we were when we first had kids. We're not the same people that we were when we first got together. We have changed, we have evolved. And but at the end of the day, even though we might do stuff with other people, we still love each other desperately and we care for each other. So they see that there is still that typical marriage, and
Hmm.
I'm using quotations. There is that typical marriage, and we're just like everybody else. We just opened our marriage up a little bit to explore other things.
I think one thing that could get lost is the world of social media and what you guys see and what you guys hear on, like, say, this podcast. So if we post every day on our Instagram,
Mhm.
that post literally takes us 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You don't know when we created that post. Like, we could have done that when our kids are out of the house. We could have done that in the middle of the night. But you have that perception of, oh man, they've posted 5 times on social media today. They released 2 episodes.
Yeah.
There's no way they could be a good parent. They're over here just living their lifestyle. And
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
I
and
don't think that's true.
you could have the assumption that our kids are sitting in the room with us right now. I
Yeah,
mean, you just
exactly.
don't know. But the truth of the matter is that we find quiet times to do the things that we want to do. So
Mm,
we consider this like a hobby, and it's something that we enjoy doing together. So we weren't planning on recording today, but our daughter happened to go to a friend's house.
right. So,
And so the house is empty. It's just Philip and I. So, I mean, we made a decision. We could be fucking right now because
which
we're,
we still might do. We have time.
or we can record a podcast.
Yeah. So I think that, seeing as how this question came in from social media, I feel like that's a good thing to mention because you see a lot of the swing talk influencers. And I bet they get the same kind of thing, like, "Well, how do you have time to be a mom? How do you have time to be a dad when you're doing all this?" And realistically, we might go to one lifestyle event a month.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah.
That's one night out of a 30-day month.
Well, yeah, because there's so many factors that go into it. You have to, it's just like planning a date night. You have to have a babysitter if your kids are younger. You have to, figure out where are we going to stay? What day of the week can we do this? You have to schedule like your life kind of around it, right? And you have to make time. So there's so many things that go into it. It's not like we're just like, "Oh, okay, well, we're going to be gone for the weekend." Like, good luck, fend for
Right,
yourselves.
right.
Like, we still cook dinner, even on the nights that we're going out. If we have our kids at home, we spend the day with our kids, we cook a meal, we have dinner, we get a babysitter, then we go out, and our kids think that we are going on a date. So, I think that the answer is it's not exactly a yes or no answer, but I think that one does not negate the other. If you feel that you're gonna be in the lifestyle and you are not going to be able to manage being in the lifestyle and taking care of your children, then the answer would be no. You can't be a good parent and be in the lifestyle. But if you are still giving your children everything that they need, you are doing everything that you are supposed to do as a parent in order to create children that will one day be productive citizens in society, which I will tell you now is the hardest job you'll ever have. But as long as you're doing all of those things and your child still feels secure and loved and safe, then there's no reason why you couldn't be a good parent and be a swinger.
Yep, I think that was well said. So, thank you for the question. I'm glad we were able to talk about that. Again, if you guys are listening, send us a comment on the podcast. We'd be happy to answer any questions there. We have our Instagram, which is Parrot Adventures.
Just send us questions. We'll be more than happy to answer them, even the hard ones.
Sometimes the hard questions are where you get like the realest answers from.
Yeah.
And I think those are a pretty real conversation. It's definitely something that most couples in the lifestyle have come across. Like most of them have children. Mhm.
I'm sure that there's a mom out there that struggles with the mom guilt and feeling like she's not doing enough and
Mhm.
that she should be home with her kid instead of going out and enjoying herself. But I will say, before we get off this topic, I will say that it is important to understand that just because you're a parent doesn't mean that you are not still entitled to live your life. That's something that we struggled with a couple years ago. And losing your identity in yourself, and you kind of fall into, for like as a woman, you fall into this category of I'm a wife and I'm a mother. But at the end of the day, when your kids move out, and
And it's just the two of you. Like,
if you spend all your time being a parent and sitting yourself into that role and you forget to date your partner or participate in your relationship, when your kids grow up and they move out, and this is just marriage in general, when your kids grow up and they leave home, they start their own lives, there's going to come a time where you look over at this person that you've spent X number of years with, whether that's 30, 40, 50, 10, 5, whatever, you're going to look at this person and you'll be like, who the hell are you? Because you're going to get lost in being a parent. And a lot of times that's what happens is you get lost in being a parent and you sacrifice your relationship in a sense. And for Philip and I feel like we're doing a really good job of juggling both of those things. Like we know in 10 years when our youngest becomes an adult and she leaves home, like we're not going to look at each other and go, "God, I don't even know who you are."
right, exactly.
Like we're going to be like, "All right, we don't have to worry about a babysitter. Like let's do this thing."
That's when the real party starts.
So it's just, I think, yes, you can be a good parent, but I will say the other key thing to take from this is whether you're a swinger or not. If you are in a relationship, if you're in a marriage and you have children, do what you need to do as far as like what you feel is right for your children. That's the most important thing. But the next most important thing is nurture your relationship because at the end of the day, when your children are gone, it's going to be you and him or you and her. And if you don't cultivate that relationship as well as your children's relationship, you might not have the relationship that you thought you were going to have when the dust settles.
Right, because we raise our children to spread their wings and move on. Like, they're not going to be with you and I forever.
Right.
They're always going to be around, but they're going to move on. They're going to take a job in another city. They're going to get married. I mean,
Have
they
children of their own.
children of their own. And of course, that just opens up like a whole nother kind of different life, talking about grandchildren and other things. But either way, the whole point is, when your kids spread their wings and start moving on with their life, who are you going to be when they leave?
Yeah.
So, with that, I think we're going to leave you with those thoughts. It was a great conversation. Thank you for the question. All right. Until next time.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.